Now, let's deal with the housing situation. Right now, Australia has a shortage of 750,000 homes, while the Albanese government seems hell-bent on bringing almost 750,000 migrants to our shores in the next year or so. Joining me to discuss this and much more is business commentator for The Australian, Terry McCrann. Terry, welcome to the program. At its Housing Accord meeting this week, the Albanese government announced that up to 40,000 low and middle income families will get extra help to buy their first home from next year. Tell us about precisely what they're proposing and whether it's going to be enough to deal with the problem.
Well, this is part of the original plan that the Prime Minister kept telling us in the election campaign that would solve all Australia's problems. And very simply, it really barely touches the sides, as you indicated, with so much demand for housing out there and so much difficulty for people on low and middle incomes to actually get the finance to buy a house. This proposal will help it very much at the margin. It's only going to start middle of next year, and the government will go co-owner with somebody that can buy a house with as little as 2% of the total purchase price, and they will only own maybe 20, maybe 40%, maybe 60%, maybe 70% of the house, and the government will own the rest. And I think it's probably at a very marginal level a worthwhile exercise, but it's really not going to make a huge difference, Amanda.
Terry, economists keep saying there's skill shortages, red tape, rising property prices, and so much more going into this, and that they're going to jeopardise Labor's plan to ease the housing crisis. I mean, that's one point of view. I'd suggest there actually isn't anywhere near enough of a plan. What's your thoughts?
Well, you need a dictionary, Amanda, to capture the totality of the stupidity and failure of what the government is proposing on that big picture. 1.2 million homes to be built over the next 5 years, starting next year. It's a sham. It's a fake. It's grandstanding. It does nothing to really address the issues, exactly the sort of thing you're talking about. I mean, homes just don't get built because governments say we want to build them. You've got to have the labour, you've got to have the materials. And we've got exactly that, a skill shortage, and it's getting worse precisely for a whole range of reasons, but mostly because we're pouring people into the country, and so the demand is dramatically increasing for not only housing, but for all the infrastructure that you then need. And you set up this competition for the skills, the trades we have between the housing industry and in Victoria's case, the big building infrastructure generally. And it's also forcing up the price of materials. It's sending builders broke. None of this has been addressed in the so-called plan. And I think the timing of it tells you everything, Amanda. The day before the national conference, Labor conference, got underway, it was purely a political exercise for the true believers. And you had 8 of the 9 leaders there who were Labor people, and the 9th one was more or less a Labor leader. He's far further left than many of those Labor premiers, and they should have made him an honorary member. I'm talking about the Premier of Tasmania. They should have made him an honorary member to come along and attend the conference.
Yeah, maybe they should have. Terry, construction companies are doing it really tough and they're going under. We hear about it almost on a daily basis. 2,200 went down last financial year. You know, they've got the cost of building materials being up, and now Labor's committed to a policy that sounds as though it's going to increase costs nationwide in the construction industry. Labor says the housing crisis is a supply issue and that they are going to be able to build these 1.2 million homes in 5 years. Is that going to happen, or is it something on the never, never? Why do they never mention the impact of immigration in this equation?
Absolutely, Amanda. I mean, and you talk about maybe 700,000 over the next 2 years coming to the country, but it's not going to stop after that. You're looking, and over the 5 years of which it's proposed that we get these extra 1.2 million homes, there's going to be likely to be up to 2 million migrants coming into the country, plus all the temporary ones, the visa holders, the students, the backpackers and so on, which are very messy in terms of how those numbers impact. But they've all got to live somewhere. So you're starting way behind with this dramatic increase in demand. And yes, supply is a problem. And nothing in this package addresses those supply issues. It doesn't address building materials. It doesn't address skilled labour. It just makes the problem worse by building up more demand and more demand, and without addressing any of the really fundamental issues.
Yeah, more for immigration, but it's got to be in balance with the infrastructure we've got and the needs of our community. Terry McCrann, thank you so much for your time tonight.